welcome to another edition of Flea Market Fantasy, the world's second greatest Bronze Age era comic book podcast. Joining me as always is new Mike L, Kevin Jank.
Hey, I'm here.
That's it?
That's all I got. This issue took so much out of me. There were so many pages that by the time it was over, I was just spent.
I don't know.
It is
a double-sized issue. That was my special gift for Jank, because today is his birthday.
Yeah.
So everyone wish Jank a happy birthday.
Good thing I started reading this book early, because this is so long.
Maybe we'll have Aquaman bring you some Twinkies for your birthday.
Oh, yeah. That would be great.
But today,
thanks, Aquaman. Sorry your movie's going to tank.
Great guppies. That movie's terrible. All right, but anyway, today we are reading Uncanny Xmen issue 166 from 1982, I believe. And this is right towards the tail end of their big Brood saga that they had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of the climax, but then I guess it continues on a little bit in the next issue. There's an after.
There's a big thing that happens next issue. Remember, at the end of last week's show, I'm like, I thought Professor Xavier might have died during this issue. No, technically he kind of dies.
He's not even in this issue, yeah.
Yeah, he kind of dies in the next issue. But he doesn't really die. They have to give him a new body, though.
Yeah, the Brood are like, apparently it's very dangerous when you're infected with one, except they've got a 100% chance of living. Nobody ever actually seems to die. At least not if you're an important character. There's always a new body or something for you.
There's always something. Always something. But anyway, we'll get to that. And the creators here, of course, are Chris Claremont and the great Paul Smith. This is during his run on X-Men. We'll talk about him later. But it's pretty iconic run he had there for the X-Men. So, but before we get into all that, let's remind everybody, not only is it Jank's birthday, but please, if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. It would be the best gift you could give to Jank.
It's true. It might put hair back in my head. We'll see.
We're up to 131 subscribers. I think we picked up a 1 this week. So,
slow week.
Every little bit counts. And but
I think
please.
you would have picked up more if you would have put in the part where in the thumbnail where Batman was swearing off his parents. That kind of got cut out.
I did kind of cover. I thought it was better to cover that, and so we could see Huntress's little head peeking up, and also it looks like Batman is yelling at the Flea Market Fantasy logo.
Should be the way you keep trying to keep him down. Keep him off the show.
He's very angry. But anyway, please like and subscribe over there on the YouTubes. But all right, Uncanny X-Men 166. Now, I was an X-Men kid, Jank. That's who I read Spider-Man when I was wee little. And then when I was about 12, 13-ish, I found the X-Men, and oh, my world changed. So, like, probably from 11 to 13, my life was nothing but the X-Men. And
a very small window, but it's sure
that's
an intense window. It's an important part of any young boy's life.
Like the first issue I got of my regular purchasing of X-Men was 207. That one with Wolverine on the cover, John Romita, claw covered on the middle. And then, of course, once you become obsessed with something, I just went back and I bought as many back issues as I could. So I read these stories back then when I was a kid. But going back and looking at the X-Men run here, like the 130s was probably like, I don't know if it was peak X-Men, but you had Claremont and Byrne.
Yeah.
Dark Phoenix
pretty
Saga.
Good. Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, it's tough to get past that. And then in the 40s, the 140s, you had the Days of Future Past, which was an iconic story. But then in the 50s,
only about
60s,
2 issues, but
in the 150s and 160s, it got a little weird. It got like a lot of outer space stuff with the Starjammers. They're fighting Dracula, Belasco. That one is
kind of bouncing around between ladies. Like there was some like blonde pilot lady I think he was seeing, and or like like Lee Forrester, and then like he meets Madeline Pryor, who's just like an exact twin of Jean Grey. Kind of in and out of the book.
And then you had a lot of Brood.
Yeah,
that's the villain today is the Brood. There was a lot of Brood. So how do you feel about the X-Men being in space and all that kind of stuff?
Well, in theory, I like it. It's definitely nice to have them mix it up and not just do the same thing every time. So it's nice to have space adventures, but when you do it too often, it definitely gets old, and I don't know. This wasn't exactly as I remembered it. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I think the X-Men found their stride again with 168. Right after this Brood ends. That's the one where Kitty Pryde's on the cover, and it opens up with the famous splash page of her saying, Professor Xavier is a jerk. She's pointing at the camera. I think from that point forward, gold. It really picks up.
Like
and it runs
joins, and they start going to Japan. Storm gets the Mohawk.
Yep. Yeah, we'll talk about that later too when we get into Paul Smith. But so then you get my wheelhouse, and then the Romita run and through Mark Silvestri, I thought was great. And then I got out of the Jim Lee era, I guess. I was out by that point.
That's tough. I love the Jim Lee era. That's my stuff right there. That and the Joe Matter era, which is hard to say.
Yes, it is. So, yeah, I could have done with a little less space stuff here in the 150s and 160s, but, I guess it's a change of pace. But, man, if you were in that time living it, that's 2 solid years of just them going into space.
Yeah, that is quite a lot. And then I think even when they came back, it was like they were dealing with space stuff in, San Francisco, and there's, all Spider-Woman and stuff. Like, I'm not reading this for Spider-Woman. I want some X-Men. Do an X-Men thing.
So the point of all that is to say this is not my favorite era of the X-Men, but a couple months after this, although it is like Paul Smith though, Yeah. And, but he just started here. 165 was his first issue. So 166, boom. This is his second issue. When I think Paul Smith and the X-Men, I really think Wolverine in Japan. 172, 173.
Morlocks, all that stuff. Yeah.
So anyway, getting to this though, the Brood, their first appearance was in Uncanny X-Men 155. And again, they started to be officially called Uncanny, in the 140 somewhere? I think right after Days.
Right after the Dark Phoenix.
I think Days of Future Past, actually. I think it was right in there when it happened. But, So, Uncanny X-Men 155. 1981. That was the Brood's first appearance, created by Chris Claremont and Dave Cockrum. And they were originally created just as henchmen for Deathbird.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Deathbird?
Yeah, Lilandra's sister.
That's right. And but then I guess they're like, these look pretty cool little guys. Let's keep them around. And they had this big arc for them. And Cockrum based them obviously on Aliens, the Aliens movie.
Very clearly. The likeness is pretty uncanny.
Yeah.
Speaking of.
But they're just these little insect reptilian kind of creatures with big heads, and they got little stingers, 2-pronged fangs on their tails that they hit people with. And they the Queen tries to implant Brood eggs inside host bodies, and then the hosts become Brood.
Yeah, again, very much like the xenomorphs from Alien. Although, I will say this, if this came out in 82, it wasn't until Aliens, the sequel in 86, that they revealed that there was a queen alien. So, technically, the Brood did beat them to that.
I did not realize that. I just assumed that everything, because I've never seen any of the
alien queen in the first one, just the eggs, and the face hugger implants them, and so I guess they could have copied it from this, but I don't think they did. I think it's just kind of these are insects. That's what they do. They have queen.
Yeah.
They all had the same idea there.
But a lot of Brood in the 160s of the X-Men. Also in this book, we get Binary. Mm-hmm. Binary. Whatever you want to say it. Carol Danvers.
Yeah.
Ms. Marvel. Now, her first appearance as Binary was Uncanny X-Men 164. In 1982.
Not very long before this.
Yeah. And the Brood are responsible for her being Binary. Do you remember how she became Binary? Would you like to explain who Binary is?
Well, I think this was basically after she had gotten her memories and powers stolen by Rogue, right?
Yes, she was powerless.
She was kind of floundering a little bit, kind of staying with the X-Men. They were trying to help her rebuild her mind, like Professor X was kind of helping her out with that. So I think, I guess that's how she ended up in space with them. But how it exactly happened, I don't remember. I know she has absorbed a bunch of solar energy at some point.
From what I can tell from the various readings I did, she was at, I guess the X-Men were having something, doing with the Lilandra. I don't know, they're having a party or something. And Deathbird showed up.
Baseball games, probably.
And Deathbird, she showed up with the Brood, and they kidnapped Lilandra.
Oh.
And it was kind of like Deathbird trying to get control of the Empire or whatever, I guess. Yep. I don't know.
Always is.
And in the process, the X-Men and Carol Danvers got caught up in all this, and they ended up in space, and they were captured, I guess. And the Brood were experimenting on Carol Danvers because they sensed that her body had some latent genetic power about it because she used to be Ms. Marvel, you know? So, and apparently they did some experiments on her, and it like amplified that genetic ability deep within or something, and she somehow absorbed all this cosmic energy and became binary, which she basically looks like, she always reminded me of Nova, I guess. Remember
the Frankie Ray Nova, not like the Nova Nova.
Yeah. Frankie Ray, the Herald of Galactus Nova. And like she's just like a lady that's on fire almost. Like she has red skin now, and she wears like a white and red outfit, and her head's kind of like just all looks like flames basically.
Yeah. It's kind of Chris Claremont going back to the well with like he did like with the Phoenix. Like, hey, let's have, someone who's kind of associated with the X-Men go into space with them and then get magical fire powers from space. And
that's true. I didn't even think of that.
Incredibly powerful and save the day.
We should also mention, the reason why Danvers was probably brought in is because of Chris Claremont, because he used to write Ms. Marvel. And yeah, like he was a big fan, so that's probably why he brought her over here. But yeah, that's binary. She's super powerful. She like shoots cosmic rays and energy and everything and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't think her binary phase lasted too long, did it? I think
it actually did. I think
really
because she came back with the X-Men, and then she kind of cut ties with the X-Men when they brought Rogue in issue 171. Because she's like, how can you help her when she ruined my life? And Xavier's like, hey, we don't pick and choose who we help. We have to help everybody, And if she's repentant,
come over and have some Taco Bell with us. Come on, it's fine.
Rogue says she's sorry. She wants to repent and do good, so we're going to take her in and help her. Storm also had a big issue with it at the time as well.
Yeah.
And, but so Carol Danvers cut ties with the X-Men. She went back into space, and she was with the Starjammers for a pretty long time. She really didn't become like Ms. Marvel again until the X-Men went through this, what was that called? The Siege Perilous or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess
must have been, I know she was a big part of Avengers number 200, so whenever that was, she was definitely Miss Marvel again by that point. That was a story all about her.
Yeah, with the baby and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
But I think that was before this though, no?
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Jim Shooter wrote that, and
Oh, okay.
Wait. Oh, now we got to Google this. This is the part of the show where we Google things.
Yeah.
See.
I know she has, slipped back into being binary over the years once in a while. I think whenever she gets, absorbs enough energy, she just overloads into binary somehow. So it's never completely gone away, I think.
Yeah, I tried to read up on the history of binary, and it's so convoluted. It makes no sense. Yeah, Avengers 200 was 1980. So Rogue stole her powers after that.
Oh.
Yeah, because I don't think, like, when they went through the Siege Perilous in, like, what was that, the Fall of the Mutants in, like, 230, somewhere around there?
Yeah, they went through it twice, technically, or at least
okay. Well, I think the first time.
Fall of the Mutants, and then the second time when they all kind of got split up.
Yeah, well, when Rogue went through it, I guess it somehow split Danvers from her.
Yes.
Think?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. I don't know. It's all very confusing.
Yeah.
But
it's weird, wild stuff.
Yeah, but anyway, when Binary cut ties with the X-Men, she was with the Starjammers for a pretty long time.
Yeah, I guess that's probably why I think of it as being a short time, because like the Starjammers weren't really around that much. So
yeah.
She's just kind of off.
Yeah, she wasn't featured prominently anywhere, basically.
Yeah.
She was with them. And then I think she left them and went solo for a while, just flying through space on her own. But, so Carol Danvers, Ms. Marvel didn't come back until much later, though. So, anyway. All right.
Warbird for a while or something like that.
Right. I forgot about that. Yeah. I did see that when I was reading up on her. Yeah. Also, this book is kind of important because it's the first appearance of a very lovable character.
Yeah, that's right.
Go ahead, Jack. Tell him.
Lockheed, the little purple dragon.
Yeah, first appearance of Lockheed.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it more later.
First appearance.
I'll be honest, I didn't really like Kitty Pryde's the end here when she's just like, oh, Ron. I guess the plants will blow up that little dragon. I never got to see him again. Oh, well. What?
I mean, what are you going to do? Like, tell the X-Men, hey, wait, you can't go home, even though the planet is blowing up in 2 seconds.
There's a little dragon that saved my life. Should probably do something about that little dragon. But, no. Sorry.
Certainly, he saved himself, though.
Yeah, that's never really explained, at least that I saw. Because all right, we'll just save it till the end, I guess, when we get to it. Yeah. But yeah, this is Lockheed, the little purple dragon. Like you said, he's still with Kitty Pryde today, I read. They didn't kill him. He's still with her today, so that's good.
Yeah, I think I'm sure he's been through all kinds of things over the years.
Oh, yeah, apparently he's been married and he's got kids. But, hey, remember, he was taken to Battle World during the Secret Wars. Kitty was not. But Lockheed was.
Yeah, that's right.
And
he made the cut.
And remember when he came back from there, he took a little dragon with him that he met on Battle World. And then that dragon, it got enormous, yeah.
It was like
for Godzilla.
Like one of those dinosaur sponges. Put it in water and it grows supersized.
Yeah. And there was an issue, I don't even know what issue it was, but do you remember the cover, like Lockheed flying up and like to the dragon, like Dragons in Love, I think was on the cover, right? You remember that?
Yeah, it was like 172 or something like that.
No, 172 was Wolverine.
Maybe it's 182.
Yeah, it was in the 180s.
Later. Yeah, you're right.
So anyway, Lockheed.
I had that issue as like an X-Men classic when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
And then I eventually did end up buying the real one later on.
All right, Jack, I think that's all the background we need here. So why don't you... we should mention Lilandra's in this, and that's just, as we said, she was like the ruler of the Shi'ar, and what's her
Professor X's girlfriend, space girlfriend. Whenever anybody goes, hey, you got a girlfriend? He'd be like, yeah, she's in space. You don't know her.
I will say this.
Sure, Chuck.
When I read ahead to the next issue, because I wanted to see how all this ended, and Xavier gets his new body and whatnot, Moira McTaggart is there, you know?
Oh.
Yeah, and she kind of sweet. She was sweet on Xavier as well, you know? And Xavier tries to stand up out of his wheelchair, because now he's got functioning legs, because he's got this new body. Because the Brood host popped up out of his body or whatever, and he turned into a Brood, so they had to give him a new body. I didn't read it, I just flipped through it. But anyway.
Yeah.
Moira McTaggart's there, and Xavier, he tries to stand and walk, but his brain doesn't believe he can walk yet. So he falls. And so they put him back in the chair there, and Lilandra is saying they're going to take good care of him with the sweet TLC or whatever. Someone says that, I don't know. But Lilandra's on one side of him, like kissing him on the cheek, and Moore's on the other side, like playing with his ear or whatever. And it's like they're going to make 3, I think is what's going to happen there.
Yeah. They don't have any hang-ups about that in space.
He's got functioning legs now, too, you know?
Yeah. Women weaken legs. Did you learn anything from Rocky?
But neither lady seems all that jealous or opposed to the idea that both of them will be taking care of Charles. And Charles is kind of like blushing, you know? It's like, ooh, yeah. So it's
well, they'll take shifts, you know? One of them gets them during the day, the other takes the night.
That Xavier's getting it done. All right, Jack, why don't you describe the cover for us? Double-sized issue right across the top. Look at that.
Yeah, double-sized issue. Not a double-sized cover. They could have done like a gatefold or something, but no, nothing. But they got the corner box there over on the left where it's supposed to be. We're back to that finally. A lot of issues where they would split up on both corners, but now we're back to the normal one. We got all the X-Men here. They couldn't decide. So let's just get the whole team in this box.
Yeah, and they're not just their faces like later they would be. Like their whole bodies, and they're running out of the box. And,
Yep. Yeah, it's quite the
tell the people who the whole team consists of now, because it did fluctuate over the years. So
sure.
Who are we dealing with?
Yep, we got Nightcrawler just hanging there by his tail, Storm's flying up in the air there. We got Colossus there just kind of standing around. Wolverine's kind of running at the camera. Cyclops is doing like a weird girly run. I don't know. He runs like Dave Machine. And then we got Shadowcat back there, just kind of.
Well, Kitty Pryde, not Shadowcat yet. Yeah, she wanted to be Shadowcat for. Wow, when did she become Shadowcat in X-Men?
Was it Excalibur or was it in X-Men?
Oh no, it was way before that. It was the Kitty Pryde Wolverine miniseries is when she became officially Shadowcat. But I don't know where that fell into the continuity of issues.
Yeah,
my guess would
a little bit after that.
190s, I would guess.
Yeah, sounds about right.
By the late 180s, early 190s, I would say. Because by the 200, she was Shadowcat, you know. But so somewhere in there. But anyway, yeah, she's just Kitty Pryde.
Bright or Ariel at this point. I don't know.
Yeah, she had a couple names. And the reason why she says Professor Xavier is a jerk at the beginning of 168 is because in 167, after he gets his new body, that issue ends with him telling Kitty Pryde, "Hey, you're no longer in the X-Men. You're joining the New Mutants."
Yep, you're demoted.
Because you're too young, you know? And,
yeah, she did not take that well.
No, but she's basically wearing a New Mutants kind of outfit.
Which
is black.
It's sad because, like, I feel like she's the one character who never really outgrew the student costume. Like, she's never really
that's right.
A costume that was like, you know.
I like the Shadowcat look.
Caliber. Yeah, like the blue on blue. Like, yeah, that was a good look, but it didn't last. Like, they always brought her back to being essentially this costume.
Although in this version, she has a little mask, that covers the top of her face and her hair sticks out of the bottom of it and whatnot. Which is not a good look.
No. And the little red lines, like, on the hands and feet, like, I don't like that either.
Oh, I didn't even notice this.
There's, like, stripes. Weird.
All right, so
then the cover itself, there's like a green background, and the whole team is kind of fighting the Brood. Nightcrawler's teleporting and punching one in the face. Colossus is, lifting one up. He's gonna power bomb the shit out of this Brood, I guess. Cyclops is blasting one of them in like the butt. It looks like.
Yeah, it looks like that.
Lilandra's got an energy sword, and she's just kind of like, I don't know, giving orders, I guess. I guess as a queen, she can just command these people to do her fighting for her. Kitty Pryde has like some kind of a laser blaster that might also be a hairdryer combined with a pot pan. And she's using that on the Brood, shooting him in the face. And one of the Brood has Wolverine kind of wrapped up, it looks like, and he's got his claws out. I'm not sure what's going on there. It's biting him in the shoulder. It looks like.
I just noticed that today. Of all these years I've had this book, I just noticed that little Brood got bit in his shoulder.
That one's all red for some reason. I'm not sure why. It basically is the same distance, and everything is the other one in front of him who's not red. So I'm not sure why that one's red. Yeah,
it's a pretty solid cover. I like Colossus looks great. Wolverine looks a little flat though, and Cyclops looks a little flat. And his arms, I would have liked to see Paul Smith take another swing at that right arm. That is, I don't know what's going on there, but
he's got a talent. It looks like I don't know what's going on with his there.
Super stubby. When Paul Smith is great, everything is so smooth and flowy and just awesome. And when he's bad, the arms are stubby and things look flat. That seems to be, but I'm a big Paul Smith fan though. A solid cover. I'd buy this book if I saw it. All right. So,
how could you not?
I did buy the book. I saw it and I bought the book, so I do own this. All right. So, now we open it up and, there's some narration here about,
that was something Claremont was never short on.
Yeah. This is classic Claremont narration, but he's painting the picture. We're basically at some alien world and, would you like to give the background for all this, Jane? Because I don't like space stuff.
Basically, they're on the Brood's home world. This was a cold, dead world until the Brood punched monstrous geothermal pits down to the core. So I guess the one difference I would say between the Brood and like the Xenomorphs is the Brood definitely. First off, they can talk, which they don't usually do.
Yeah, that is weird. Yeah.
But they're more. I don't know. They're more technologically, efficient. They're better at using technology and
like that. that hair dryer laser gun Kitty has, like those are the weapons I think the Brood uses. They have ray guns and everything, so yeah, they use technology quite a bit.
Yeah, they're higher, thinking beings, I guess. And so they're going after these Uncanny. They're basically giant space whales that are flying around, and they use them as starships, like living starships. Yeah. Essentially, they enslave them and then just travel around in them.
All right, so yeah, let's stop here for a second. How do you feel about that? Because giant space whales that are used as spaceships, right away, I'd normally be out. I'm like, I'm out. I like punching. I'm not into space stuff like this.
Especially when the whole issue then becomes like, hey, well, we're all going to die, but we got to save these space whales first. We do anything.
We got to save the space whales. Yeah, like the background of this story is weird. It's like these space whales are, like you said, are being enslaved by the Brood, and the old school like leader space whale, like the guy they all look up to.
Yeah,
he was murdered, and the Brood are now using his dead carcass as like their headquarters, and they just live inside it and stuff. So the whole point of this issue is the Xmen are they've all been implanted with Brood embryos, all the Xmen.
Yeah. Wolverine has cured himself of his, thanks to the healing factor. It kind of, got him through it. So he's all right.
Carol Danvers is also okay because I guess her transformation into binary burned out the embryo or something.
Yeah.
So she's fine. But everyone else is going to die. They're all going to turn into Broods.
Storm, I don't know. Like she might die because she uses her power, she says, but I think she's technically been cured of her Brood, but her body is basically a husk in a cocoon at this point. Kind of like Jean Grey at the bottom of the ocean.
This whole Storm situation is also weird. All right, but where was I? We'll get into Storm here in a second. But yeah, so they want to save the giant space whales. They have to go into the Brood's headquarters and free the soul of the giant dead space whale. And then that soul will go up into space to a baby space whale who is destined to be like the next leader of the space whales. Yeah, like he's the next, what's the word? He's the next, Tibet. What are they? Yeah. Why am I so old? I can't think of what that guy's name. The Dalai Lama. The next Dalai Lama, basically.
Sure. Yeah. The Pope.
My dad met the Dalai Lama.
Wow.
Yeah. Said he's a good guy. Yeah, said he's a good guy.
He wasn't a degen from up country?
No, he's a really nice guy. All right, so anyway, they wanted to make this next little space whale a Dalai Lama. And so, I don't know, that's not a thing I care about, giant space whales.
No. Don't care. Not so much. Yeah. It's hard to get behind that as a big plot device. Yeah. And then especially when, we'll get to it, but I don't know, it becomes a real Deus Ex Machina by the end. It just cures everything.
Yes, it does. All right, but so at the beginning of this book, like you said, they're in the Brood world, and they call this planet Sleaze World. That's clearly just a nickname, right? Like not an official name.
I would have to think so. Like that's weird.
Yeah.
Like they are called the Brood officially, right? Not the Sleazoids. I know Kitty Pryde keeps calling them that, but
Kitty just calls them Sleazoids because she's a teenager and likes funny things. But they always refer to the planet as Sleaze World. And then when I looked,
Cyclops doesn't. It's weird. Like
when I looked it up on Marvel Fandom when I was doing my Brood research, they even have a link to Sleaze World. I'm like, well, that can't be the actual name of the planet. But I don't know.
That's weird. Did they let Arcade up here to name things or what?
So anyway, the Brood have this giant space whale captured, and it's on a bunch of spikes and stuff, and they're trying to implant venom or whatever into his body so
the slaver virus,
yeah, and so it can enslave them and make the giant space whale their little flying ship. And Carol Danvers comes along and says, none of that. And she just starts beating the hell out of the Brood.
Just flying through all their buildings, smashing shit.
Yeah. Just blowing up all their ships and everything. And then the Brood, they're like, oh man, we're dead. Yeah, she pretty much slaughters everybody, I think.
Yeah, just lights everything on fire. And then she sees the giant space whale, and she's like, oh, I feel your pain. It's very sad. And it's like, just kill me.
Yeah, the space whale's like, just put me out of my misery. I'm done. They put me with that virus. So she's all sad. But yeah, she kills the giant space whale. She's like, all right, I'll put you down. Isn't this basically like the Star Trek movie where Spock was talking to whales and stuff?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's like taking a lot of inspiration.
So now, Binary's flying away. She's all sad, because she had to just murder that space whale. And she's going to get revenge on this Brood everywhere they go, But then, Storm, she sees Storm just floating in space. She's like, wait, what?
Doesn't seem right.
Why are you just floating in space, Storm? And as you mentioned earlier,
you couldn't survive this.
Yeah, this gets even weirder and worse because Storm apparently, did you understand how any of this happened? But her Brood embryo thing hatched or something, right? And it messed up her body somehow. And
I'm sure it erupted out of her and, kind of like
she was like floating in space at some point. And now, did these giant space whales, were they the ones that saved her? Or who saved her?
The baby, the chosen one, Dalai Lama space whale came along and saved her and like bonded with her and basically is viewing her as its mother, essentially.
Yes.
And so is now keeping her, her withered husk of a body in a protective cocoon inside of it. And somehow while she's in there, she can astrally project herself. And even though she's an astral projection, she can also still use her mutant powers.
But the powers come from the body. So the body is still very weak. So she's worried if she uses her powers, it could totally kill her body. And then she would lose her body forever. So that's another little conflict going on later in this issue. All right, Jake. So I'm out on space whales. I am definitely out on Storm Cocoon body and mentally bonded with a space whale. Like,
boy, they were really messing with Storm a lot these days. Like, this is, I think, right around like a couple issues after she became a vampire. It's like, what are we doing?
But it is good long-term storytelling though, because all these things eventually lead to her new look and everything. Like so
that's her true transformation was into a punk.
Because even like Rogue showing up and joining the team, that was another blow to her. So she was taking all these hits and then boom, she transformed. So I like that. But, fighting Dracula and being bonded with a space whale aren't exactly what I would do, to get her there. But, Claremont made some choices.
So, I mean, that's the good thing about Claremont's run is it was always changing. Like, he did keep mixing things up. So he didn't just, let things stay stagnant. Whether all the eras were going to be good or not, at least he was trying things.
Yeah, the characters evolved, like Storm definitely changed. Wolverine definitely changed.
People would come and go and I don't know. It was interesting long-term storytelling.
So, all right, back to the story that I hate. I was disappointed. I was looking for something, classic X-Men story. I did not remember much of this at all. The only thing I remembered is that Wolverine wanted to kill everybody. And,
even that I'd say you were wrong about because he really doesn't. Like,
but he's thinking it over though. He's thinking it over.
Yeah. Especially Cyclops. He's like, I've wanted to do this for a while.
He did pop the claw. He's ready to go.
Yeah.
But all right, so Storm invites Binary. She's like, I'm just an astral projection. Come follow me back to the flying space whale there. And they go inside the space whale, and there's a ship inside the space whale too. That's a Shi'ar ship, right? And that's where they're having their little meetings. And so Carol Danvers goes in and she meets everybody: Lilandra, Cyclops, Colossus, Kitty, Nightcrawler, and Storm. One thing I like is how Paul Smith is definitely drawing Wolverine height appropriate. He draws him very small.
He's a petite fella, shopping in the kids section.
So they're trying to talk to everyone. Kitty's freaking out. She's like, we're all going to die. Why are you making jokes and cracking wise to Carol Danvers? Like, we're going to die. You think Kitty would be able to phase out of that embryo, though, right? Like, couldn't she just phase and the embryo fall to the ground?
Yeah, I would think so. That's a good point. I guess she's not really too skilled with her powers yet. Maybe she can't control.
Yeah,
that type of thing.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And all right, so but Colossus is. What kind of shirt is Colossus wearing, by the way? It's like it's buttoned on the side of the chest.
Maybe it's one of Lilandra's shirts.
Space shirts. Yeah. He's got a lot of pockets on his pants too. Cargo shorts.
He got it at the Sleeves World gift shop.
So they're just talking about their situation, and they're saying, well, yeah, we're all going to die, but what we should do is save them space whales.
Yeah, we're going to die. We might as well do something good, like saving those precious space whales.
Let's try to kill as many of them damn brood as we can. Make sure they can't do this to anyone else. And we get a couple pages of Storm just recounting everything that's happened to catch the readers up on everything, and talking about them space whales. And
it's almost like they're going to have an argument whether they should go get revenge or save the Uncanny, but they're both the same, so it doesn't really matter.
Two birds with one stone.
Kind of conflict there, yeah.
And how do you feel about Carol Danvers, even when she's not in her fiery form? Like now she's just normal flesh colored, not bright red skin. Her hair is still like pointed straight up in the air. Even though she has her blonde hair. Yeah, it's very unusual. They're talking things over. And old Wolverine, though, he's like, Cyclops comes with a plan. He says, Storm and Carol, you create a diversion, lead the brood out into space, and we will attack their headquarters here, inside the giant carcass of that space whale, and then we'll free the space whale's soul. Because, everyone knows how to do that. How do you,
of course.
How do you even free a dead space whale's soul? I have no idea. So he's like, that's what we're going to do. And Wolverine says, hey, you know what, Psych? I'd appreciate it if you just let Danvers and me do the dirty work down on the ground,
Yeah, because you guys are filthy broods.
Yeah.
So you're pretty much all traitors. Any minute now, you're going to all betray us. So we should probably keep you guys away from this. And Cyclops is like, no, we're good.
Yeah, they start fighting. And he's like, hey, Wolverine, if you don't want us around, why don't you just kill us? Why don't you just kill us right now and get it over with? And Wolverine, he's thinking it over, and he's like, man, I hate that Cyclops guy. Yeah, and he pops his claws. And Kitty's like, no.
Come back to life. It'd be nice if Cyclops was dead by then.
And Kitty Pryde's like, no. Well, if you don't kill Cyclops. He owes me money. And they talk things over, and they're like, all right, we'll do Cyclops' plan. We'll do Cyclops' plan.
Even though this is a terrible plan, but we're going to do it anyway.
So Storm and Carol Danvers, the diversion is they just take that little baby space whale and they fly them real close to the brood and lead them out into space. That's the diversion.
Yeah, they buzz the tower basically, like in Top Gun.
Yeah. So they're all diverted. Lilandra says, all right, we're going to beam us down to the the old dead carcass of the space whale. And you get a little Star Trek joke there from Kitty, like you're beaming us down, Scotty, and all that.
Yeah, she's laughing. She's giggling her head off. It's not that funny.
Yeah. She forgot she's going to die at any second.
Yeah.
So now we cut down and we see the brood getting ready. And the queen is there. And you can tell the queen because she is a little bit bigger. I think that's the only way you can tell.
Yeah, pretty much. We could have tried harder, made her like a different color. But
give her a crown or something. And she gets a message from one of her broodlings pops up in her mind, giving her a little message, and she says, "Hey, Queenie, it's me, one of your little broodlings. I'm inside that Cyclops guy." Oh, he doesn't say Cyclops.
Yeah, it's just one of them. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm inside of one of them Xmen, and they're coming down to the planet there to murder everybody, to free that space whale's soul. And the Queen says, all right, thanks there. What I want you to do is lay low for now, and then when the time is right, make your move, So now we got a mystery. Which one of the X-Men is going to betray them? One of them is going to betray them. So that's pretty good, you know?
Yeah. Too bad, I mean, it ultimately doesn't really matter. Could have been anyone, and it really wouldn't have changed the story any.
Well, it kind of like, it looked like the X-Men might win, you know? And then boom, the betrayal happens and then they're captured, you know? So you get them captured. But, so the Queen, here's a little, decision here by the Queen now that seems questionable. She wants to go fight the X-Men personally. You know?
Yeah. She's not played a lot of chess, apparently.
Yeah, you want to protect the Queen at all costs. You don't want to put her on your front lines, you know?
That's what those pawns are for. Just send them out there.
Yeah, it really come back to bite her in the ass, I think, later on. But,
yeah.
Anyway. So
Queen's motivation's very strange this whole time.
Yeah. So we see the X-Men, they're now beamed down on the planet there. And,
they're in like some lower catacombs that apparently even the Brood are afraid to like go in because there's things in there that are more dangerous than them.
And we find out what those things, it's the Lockheed. That's those are more dangerous than the Brood. It's the little dragons that fly around.
Dragon. Yeah.
But so I don't know. We see Carol Danvers out in space and she's fighting the Brood and whatnot. That's a great panel of her shooting all that energy into the corner of the panel and it just blends in and merges to the page. I like that a lot. Yeah. And, but the Brood like overwhelm. Oh, we see Storm using her powers even though they're in space. She's shooting lightning into the Brood ships and everything. And
yeah, not sure how that works, but
yeah, not sure either.
I feel like you would need an atmosphere to have her be doing anything, but
Claremont tries to explain it by, what does he say? Primal natural forces which Storm shapes as a sculptress does her clay. It is in space, the elements are much more powerful than in a planetary atmosphere. The strength required to manipulate them correspondingly greater. Like he just says that as fact, but I don't know if that's scientifically proven.
Yeah, I don't know that science is going to back that up, but you know, if it says it on the page, it must be true.
Yeah, so she does it anyway, even though it could destroy her body, but it doesn't. She's all right. All right, so now we see the X-Men fighting the Brood, and Kitty gets grabbed by something, and she remembers, oh yeah, I'm a mutant, and she phases, and she falls through a wall, and now Wolverine is talking to Cyclops, and he's like, hey, Cyclops is being even extra jerky. You know, this guy's always a jerk, but now he's a little bit more of a jerk, and he's kind of fighting like I do. This doesn't seem like old Scott Summers at all, you know?
Yeah,
he's a little suspicious. I thought they were stealing Jean Grey's purse, but no. Then Kitty falls into through a wall, and she lands in like a nest with a bunch of hatched eggs. And then she sees a bunch of dead Brood, just their skeletons picked clean, you know? She's like, oh no, something down here even worse than the Brood. And we get a little shot of Lockheed. We don't know it's Lockheed yet, but we get a little shot of his eyeball and one of his teeth. Like, uh-oh, look out. Now we're out in space.
Yeah, cool shadow on the wall. That's pretty cool.
Now we're out in space, and Carol Danvers, she's just becoming overwhelmed by the Brood. There's just too many of them. And they grab her and knock her out and whatnot.
Yeah, they get her using space tentacles to hold her down. But then the Starjammers show up.
Yeah.
Starjammers.
Yay or nay on the Starjammers? We touched on it a little bit earlier. For those who don't remember the Starjammers, Corsair, right? And that's Cyclops' dad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the Starjammers. I mean, much more than space whales. I'll take the Starjammers over those anyway.
Yeah, I don't mind the Starjammers. You got that one lady who's like a fox? Or no, a squirrel. A giant squirrel, right?
Kinda. Yeah, I'm not sure what animal she's supposed to be. She's just a furry, basically.
Yeah. Pretty much.
But her and Corsair, yeah, they're getting it on.
And then you got that giant lizard kind of guy,
yeah, his name is Chode.
That's right. Chode.
Yeah, so good. Raza, the guy with the swords.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Then you had Sikorsky, a little medical robot.
Yeah. Yeah, who talks like Yoda, but even worse and more annoying, apparently. The words are just in complete random order.
They're basically just space pirates. They fly around having adventures. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
What happened to Cyclops' mom? I don't know. I forget all this.
She died after they were taken prisoner by, Emperor Ken, Lilandra's evil brother. She died, although I think she gave birth to 2 different children before that. Because there are other Summers brothers out there.
Wait, besides just Havoc and Cyclops, there are more?
Yes. Yeah, there was a big mystery in the 90s, like that there was a 3rd Summers brother. And they were setting it up to be this guy Extreme.
Shemp the 3rd.
Yeah. And they kind of just never did anything with it. And then they were like in the 2000s, they were like, oh, it's this guy Vulcan. And then they also did this X-Men Legends thing a while ago where they did show that, oh yeah, it is also Extreme too. So I don't know. She had like multiple children before she died. Oh. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the X-Men after like 234 or something. Just nothing. Nothing. All right, so now we're cut back to the Brood. Where did we end off? Yeah, the Starjammers. They come in and save the day, and then the X-Men are fighting the Brood. Wolverine's getting stabby with one of them, and then he looks over and he sees that Scott Summers, and he says, "I got to get a whiff of his scent." Because I think something's screwed.
Not right here. Yeah.
So he gets a good whiff of him, and he's like, "Yep, he's a Brood," and he just tackles him, and he rips off his visor, and his eyes are Brood eyes.
Yeah. Pretty cool looking.
But in ripping off the visor, then the Brood eyes just shoot the optic blasts, boom, and they take out Wolverine and Colossus. And
except then Lilandra says his metamorphosis has given him voluntary control over his optic blasts and a much wider arc of fire, which they very clearly contradict soon after this when they're like, oh, he can't control it because he doesn't have eyelids.
Yeah, because they do show him standing there with just his eyes and no lasers coming out,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it seems things get a little sketchy. But yeah, Lilandra and Nightcrawler, like, she comes up to the plant. She's like, hey, you distract him and I'll cut him with my sword and kill him. Let's do this. But then the Brood come up behind them and they have their little ray guns and she zap. That's a nice panel. Lilandra and Nightcrawler. So all the X-Men are taken out, just like that. Yep. Boom. All done for the count.
But for Cyclops, who's now, working with them.
Oh, and Kitty Pryde as well, because she's still running. Because we see she's down in the catacombs being chased by Broods, and she's taking a beating there. And again, this is young Kitty Pryde, so she's not a master of her powers or anything. So she's trying to survive the best she can, and the Brood have her pinned down, and they're about to eat her or whatever. And who saves the day now, Jank?
Oh, we get a sweet shot of Lockheed. Oh boy, does he look intimidating there. He looks about 10 feet tall. But, no, just perspective. But he starts blasting him with his fire breath and, toast the hell out of these Brood. And then you get a good shot of him from the side and it turns out, he's only about 2 feet long. It's very tiny.
Like a cat-sized dragon.
Size.
Yeah. And Kitty's like, I don't believe this. Are you for real? Are you friendly? You must be. I'm still alive. And then more Broods are shooting at him. Or at least one Brood. One Brood is looking at him. And she's like, hey, little dragon, look out. And she jumps out of the way. But the Brood punctures a hole in the wall. And the hole just starts glowing. And I think they found the space whale's soul.
Yeah. Which, considering the Brood have been here, they've made this thing their base. How did they not get in there before?
I don't think they even cared, they didn't even know, they didn't know the soul was
They seem to want it now, they're like, oh, if we get that soul, then we can enslave all of them, and we don't even have to get them with the slave virus, we can just do it from here, so it seems like they would have wanted to get in there the whole time.
Yeah, there's a lot in this story that's kind of weird. So, But Kitty and the Brood, they get hypnotized by the glowing light, and they just walk into the hole there. But Lockheed stays out. He kind of doesn't go in there.
Yeah, he's no dummy.
So now we see the X-Men. They're all shackled up, these giant metal things around their arms. Yeah, these Brood, they know their way around a workshop.
Yeah, they have no opposable digits, but or they.
sadly, old Brood Cyclops, he doubles over in pain. He's like, my belly. Too much chili. And he falls down. And yeah, now he says, my optic blast, they're out of control. So, and he like zaps the Queen, right? With his optic blast. And,
yeah, right in the face. Yeah. It's a fine, how do you do?
So Wolverine says, hey, you know what? I got an idea. He leaps in front of the optic blasts. And Cyclops, I guess Cyclops is getting control of things here. Oh, maybe that's what happened. That's why he lost control of the optic blast. Because like the Brood was in control, and then Cyclops fought for control. Because Cyclops says, Wolverine, I've killed him. Like he's sad, you know. But so I think Cyclops is in control.
But Wolverine his thought bubble says Sleazoids don't have eyelids. Scotty can't block the beams now except with his hands. And the embryo's too inexperienced and panicked to think of that.
Yeah, but I think the embryo was controlling it, right?
That's what Lilandra was saying.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is like Scott's now in control. So it's all confusing. Who cares?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Wolverine jumps into the blast and gets his shackles all blown off, as well as, a couple layers of skin, but he's Wolverine. He'll be all right.
Yeah, his mask is gone, his top is gone, and one of his legs costume's gone. Thankfully, the part covering his
crotch is still covered. Yeah. We don't need full scrot in this issue.
But Cyclops is still fighting for control of things though, and Wolverine jumps over and just KOs him, punches him in the face, put him down, knock him out. And
he was probably going to do that anyway, but at least now it served the purpose.
And then he puts his fist to the woozy Queen's head, and he's like, "Hey, Broods, put down your guns, or I'll just pop my claws and kill your Queen."
Mm-hmm.
I always liked it when Wolverine does that, threats to pop the claws, murder somebody.
Yep. Almost as cool as when he actually does.
So they all drop their guns, and then we get a little narration here. It says, the Xmen cover Cyclops' eyes with his visor, while the shackles are used to bind the Brood warriors, who are then left behind as our heroes continue on through the catacombs until... So, yeah, things move quick. That one narration box covers a lot of stuff. Because this is a double-sized issue. It doesn't need to be a triple-sized issue. Let's keep it moving. So they find the portal, the glowing portal thing, and Kitty walks out of it, and she's all like she's reached nirvana. She's all peaceful, She's like, oh man, I think I might be the Dalai Lama now. And they're like, Kitty, what's up? And they're all happy to see her. And I don't know. What does she say?
Yeah, Colossus picks her up, and she starts to giggle, and he's like, oh, thank God, you're still you, and not, some kind of hippie.
And again, can we talk briefly about his inappropriate relationship with Kitty Pryde? Because Colossus is early 20s, right?
Yeah. Kitty Pryde's like 13.
What are we doing?
Yeah. It's pretty weird.
I guess you could say Colossus is 18, 19 if you're really stretching. Maybe 19, but...
Maybe. Yeah, it's still not good.
No, it's not appropriate.
Good.
And
I think, wasn't it around here where they were in space and she was like, she wanted to lose her virginity to Colossus before they died?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
They kiss in, I was flipping through some issues, just to look at Paul Smith art, and they do kiss, I think, for the first time in issue 174, maybe. So, and Storm interrupts it, I think, but, Mohawk Storm. So anyway, what is she saying here just about the soul and everything? And I don't know.
Yeah, pretty much. I figure I wasn't affected because I'm still fundamentally human. But maybe we better leave the Queen outside. There's some kind of glowing crystal thing that turns the Brood into crystal in there. But the Queen is like, Xmen, you are flesh of my flesh. Where you go, so shall I. Why are they bringing her with them?
Yes. They show
the team.
They show the Queen put her arm around Lilandra. I guess is that to imply that? But Lilandra has that energy sword right there.
Yeah.
Just cut off the Queen's head.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot here with the Queen that just does not make sense.
Yep. Now she wants to be part of the X-Men, I guess. What are you doing? This makes no sense.
Why isn't this Queen already dead? Why didn't they just murder the Queen?
Right. You could end all this now. Why are you taking her into the source of all this power? Like, that could only go badly, probably, in most cases.
So they go inside this chamber where it's supposedly the Space Whale's soul is, and it's all like crystal and it's all pretty and whatnot. And everyone's all amazed and like, oh, this is beautiful. And then Colossus says, hey, look out. Look underneath the queen brood there. She's turning the crystal black, like inky black. And Wolverine's like, hey, everybody get out of here before it's too late. But the queen stabs Wolverine right in the back with her two venomous fangs on her tail.
Yeah. Wolverine's like, well, that's my own fault. Should never turn my back on you or left your fangs intact. It slices them right off.
Yep. So the queen's going to bleed out, right? Like, I mean, that's a wound you don't recover from. But Wolverine picks himself up and he's like, man, that's a lot of venom even for me. I might not be able to survive this. But he's like, you know what? I can't die yet. But now all the X-Men are like, looks like they're giving up to their brood embryos. It looks like they're all starting to hatch or something.
Yeah.
You know? And he's like, oh, well, guess there's just enough time. Yeah, Kitty's turned into one. Look at that. The little legs are popping out of her. He's like, oh, well, I guess there's just enough time for me to murder them all. So he pops his claws. But Carol Danvers swoops in, grabs him, and picks him up. And she's like, hey, don't be so fast there, Wolvie. I think I got an idea. You know? And how does Carol Danvers solve everything, Jack?
Oh boy. Very conveniently, as Wolverine and the Queen watch, Carol becomes an eldritch creature of light and fire, a living star. Her celestial radiance reflected and amplified by the crystal cavern until finally she's generated enough power to release the Uncanny soul. So the soul then goes flying out and it's released. It goes up into space, meets up with the baby space whale, and everything is right. The Uncanny are free at last.
Got a new Dalai Lama.
Yep. That cures everything. Like, the X-Men are now cured of all their broods. The Queen brood is now turned to crystal. Storm's just fine. Randomly. Like, oh yeah, I'm cool. Well, you can't cure me too.
Yeah, they go back to the Starjammer ship and somehow the Starjammer technology made Storm a new body. Is that what happened? I don't know.
No, I think she literally says, like, let's see. As healthy as I've ever been, kitten, courtesy of the Prophet Singer. The soul of the Prophet Singer restored me as easily as it restored you. So, yeah, just that soul just cured everything.
Do you think that Prophet Singer could restore my willingness to give a damn? Do you think he could do that?
Think he could bring all those hockey balls you destroyed back to life?
I doubt that. They're dead, solid dead. But yeah, everyone, Wolverine's healing up. He's all beat up. He's in a sling and whatnot. Or Cyclops is in a sling. Everybody's in slings. They all have separate shoulders. And, but everyone's happy, you know. The embryos died. Everyone's back. The brood are dead. Oh, the brood planet blew up too. That's what I want to talk about with Lockheed. Cause, Kitty, when they're going to beam off the planet, Kitty just looks around and goes, oh, well, I don't see that little dragon anywhere. And someone asked them, like, did they ask her, like, what dragon or something? She goes, oh, don't worry about it. It's nothing important. What? Come on, Kitty. Little Lockheed saved your life. That's nothing important. Don't worry about it. Little dragon. We'll get out of here. So we don't see Lockheed. We don't see Lockheed again until issue 168. And he saves Kitty. He's in the mansion. Somehow he's in the X mansion, and he saves Kitty because there's some sort of aliens that infested the mansion, and then Lockheed saves Kitty again, burns them all up and everything. And so Professor Xavier lets her keep Lockheed, but there's no explanation of how Lockheed got in the X mansion. Like,
ooh, they never explained that. That's pretty bad.
I didn't read it there in that issue. I don't know when they, like, at least in the panels that were there. I guess the implication is he stowed away with them but clearly he didn't.
I could see him getting in the teleport beam and making it onto this ship. But then I guess how did he get, to the X mansion? Did he somehow do that again or find their luggage and stow away in it?
But don't we see them teleporting off? I mean, he's not there.
Yeah, but he could be behind them or something,
But what if they see him then when they land on the ship? Like, hey, there's a dragon there. Who had that little flying dragon? So there's a lot of unanswered questions.
He took off. Yeah.
About how Lockheed got there. But maybe they do explain it eventually. But at least in the panels I read, they did not explain it. I don't know. Maybe he can teleport on his own somehow.
Yeah, that's possible.
No, it's not. He's a dragon. All right, anyway, so everyone's all happy. They're like, "Hey, we beat the Brood, yeah, except for the little dragon that died. No one cares." And but then Wolverine says, "Hey, not to ruin anything, but right when we were killing that queen, right before that, she was kind of gloating that there's one more embryo out there,
a royal embryo, another queen,
and it's going to destroy the Earth, and there's only one person it can be in." Professor Charles Xavier.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, the issue ends.
Yeah.
So next issue, they go back, and they just go into the mansion, like, ready to fight Xavier, because they assume he's been taken. And the New Mutants are just, like, watching TV, and they're like, "Hey, what's going on?" So they try to fight the X-Men. The X-Men just mop them up, because they're little punks.
That's good.
Yeah. But then they get upstairs to Xavier's study or whatever, and he's full on Brood, and then he like he's evil, and then he hatches into the full Brood body, and then they beat the hell out of him, and they basically kill him, but then they put his mind into a different body with legs, and that's how that all ends.
Very convenient.
But there it is, Uncanny X-Men 166. Wow, what an adventure. I don't know, Jank. I was kind of disappointed.
It's amazing that this story has had such legs. Like, I feel like I had a book. I've been going through a lot of my old stuff recently, and I had these books, like these X-Men books when I was a kid. They were like, like they had taken comic stories and made them into young adult type novels, essentially, where there'd be one picture chapter or something like that. And this was definitely one of them. I remember having it and probably coloring some of those pictures. But I think there was also an episode of the X-Men animated series that kind of involved this and the space whales and all that stuff. And this story has really had a lot of legs for something that really wasn't that good. It was not that exciting.
I guess the concept of ripping off aliens and having embryos hatch in your body, that's kind of cool, I guess. I don't know. But the whole space whale stuff, I don't know. Doesn't do it for me.
No, it's a little too outside of our reality, I guess. So it kind of loses relatability.
So I don't know. Yeah, the writer here, of course, is Chris Claremont, as he did all these, and not his best work, I don't think. Not his best work.
No, again, it's nice to mix it up every once in a while, but 2 years of mostly being in space is a little much.
Yeah, a little much. All right, so let's talk about the art here. Paul Smith. I love Paul Smith. Now, this issue I don't think is great, Paul Smith, because it's a double-sized issue. You could tell especially towards the end, a lot of panels looked not so great.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
But I still love Paul Smith. He was born in 1954 in Kansas City, Missouri. Although I guess he was only in Kansas City for 3 days because his parents lived in Kansas, right next to Missouri there. And they were just visiting, I think their dad's grandfather at the time because it was his birthday. And while they were there, his mom went into labor. And she had the baby in the Kansas City hospital, but then they moved back to their normal hometown 3 days later. And then his dad was
very in-depth research you did here.
Yeah,
the origins of Paul Smith.
I did. His dad was like something to do with like a naval something or other, so they moved around a lot when he was a kid. And he grew up. He liked comic books when he was little, up until about 9 years old. And then he thought, this is a guy after my own heart, because he thought Batman and Superman were stupid. And he said he grew out of it. He's like, these guys are dumb. Oh. He's 9 years old. He's like, comic books stink. So, but then a little bit later, this was, again, he was born in 54. So, then when Spider-Man came around, one of his buddies showed him a Spider-Man book. He says, hey, check this out. This is really good. And he read it and goes, yeah, you know what? This is really good. This is way better than that piece of crap.
That actually has like a real person.
So he loved Spider-Man. He loved Ditko. He was a big Steve Ditko guy. And then from there, someone showed him the Fantastic Four, and he's like, yeah, this is pretty good too. And he's like, you know what? Comic books don't stink. Marvel's awesome. DC stinks. DC is what stinks. Marvel's awesome. So he just started, loving Marvel. And so then he's back into comic books again. And he started drawing. He is completely self-taught.
Wow.
Never took an art class. Not one damn art class. He just said everyone draws when they're little, but I just never stopped drawing. I just kept drawing. So, yeah.
That's impressive.
Yes, it is. He was also a fan of Neil Adams a lot. So then he did go into, he did get back into Batman, I guess, with some Neil Adams.
That I could see. His stuff was more Neil Adams than Steve Ditko, for sure.
Yeah, in a way. But Neil Adams was a lot of lines. Paul Smith is like minimalist with his lines. Very few lines.
That's
so
true.
The reason he got that style, though, even though he liked Neil Adams, is because his first job was he's worked as an animation artist on Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings movie.
Oh, okay.
Like I don't know when that came out, like 79 or so, 80 maybe, 70, I don't know. But he was working as an animation artist, so he just drew a lot. He said they would work like 12, 16 hours a day. That's where he learned to focus on form more than line, because that's all you had time for. And then he would pass it off, and then other people would clean up the line work. But he was just on the form, you know? So you can see that in his art. Like, it does have that clean animation kind of style to it.
Yeah, I could definitely see this being an animated series. Yeah, for sure.
So then in the early 80s, he started doing fill-in issues for various titles of Marvel, because, again, he loved Marvel, including an X-Men story in Marvel Fanfare issue 4 in 1982. He also did issue 1 of the Falcon miniseries. We did an issue of that miniseries here on the show, but I think it was issue 3 maybe, so it was not the one Paul Smith drew. And, Jank, he did issue 32 of Howard the Duck. So.
Oh, right after the one we just read.
He became the regular artist on Doctor Strange with issue 56 in 1982. And that book at the time was bi-monthly. So he only lasted 2 issues on there, and then he took the job to do the X-Men. Because I guess Jim Shooter wanted him on there, and I guess Paul Smith actually felt bad. You know, I just agreed to do Doctor Strange, and now I'm out. But, you know, it's the X-Men. It's the biggest book.
Yeah.
One of the biggest
prestige book at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Because at this time, actually, the big books, the big books were X-Men and Daredevil. Daredevil was like their real big book too at the time. Because of Frank Miller. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Spider-Man was a complete afterthought at this time. Like he
wow.
was, because I read an interview with him that was done right before he started on, like he just started on X-Men, and he gave this interview, and he says he really wanted to do Spider-Man. And in his answer, he's like, people say Spider-Man's a dead character, but no, I think you can still tell stories of Spider-Man. It's like, shit.
Wow. Yeah, soon they would be doing 4 books a month. Yep. So, yeah, I'd say there's still Spider-Man stories to be doing.
So, yeah, Doctor Strange 2 issues. Then he did X-Men, and he did issues 165 through 170. 171 was done by Walt Simonson, and then Smith did issues 172 to 175. And he came back years later to do Uncanny X-Men 278.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't reading then, so I'll have to go back and look at that one.
78.
I have no idea.
Oh, that was part of the Muir Island saga. I think.
Okay.
Where, remember when the X-Men came back from space with Professor X, you know, again, healed from being in space. And they went to Muir Island because the Shadow King had taken over and was controlling a bunch of people.
Yeah, never read those.
That's where he ends up getting paralyzed again.
Again. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Xavier. Paul Smith also did X-Men Alpha Flight, that 2-issue series. I love that. I don't know if you ever read that, but that was really good.
Oh, that's really good.
And what else? When he took the X-Men job, he agreed to do it for 1 year. Yeah, that's all it was. So they knew he was leaving in issue 175. That was going to be his last issue.
Okay.
And then after that, he went back to Doctor Strange, and he did 7 issues between 65 and 73. He would do 6 issues of X Factor, including between issues like, he did issues 43 through 46, then 48 and 49.
Oh, that was like the Judgment War era.
Yeah, I wasn't reading that either. So.
Yeah, that wasn't a good time. It was like they go into, I think they take, Apocalypse's ship, like up into space, and they're like dealing with the Celestials and all this bullshit. Like, I don't care about the Celestials.
Yeah. No one does. He also did work for First Comics, and as I mentioned a couple weeks back, he did a couple issues of American Flag, and he also worked on Nexus and Grimjack, which I'm not familiar with. From 1996 to 99, he did all 13 issues of Leave It to Chance for Image Comics.
I don't know what that one is.
Never heard of that either. It's kind of, I guess it's some sort of a magic thing, a wizard or something. And I looked at the art.
It's with their probability hexes.
It's very like childlike, like cartoony kind of art, I would say.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that being where his style evolves into.
But when I think Paul Smith, though, I think X-Men in this run. It's crazy that it only lasted, the 10 issues or whatever. But
pretty memorable.
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, the art in this one isn't too, because just starting out. But if you go back and you look at 72, 73, 74, 75, it is spectacular. It is so flawless. So
pretty great.
Big fan of Paul Smith. And again, just real smooth, few lines as possible. Just so clean is the word I think of when I think of Paul Smith. I used to always say he was my favorite X-Men artist. Then I read this issue and I'm like, wait a minute, there's some terrible stuff in here. But no. It's all right. I got to focus on the good stuff. So I don't know. Who would be your favorite X-Men artist, Jank? If you said Jim Lee earlier, you really like Jim Lee?
Yeah, Jim Lee I really like, and Joe Madureira. I really like those guys. Those I think my 1 and 2 right there. But Paul Smith's really great. I have nothing bad to say about the man's art. I mean, maybe a couple of panels there, but overall, big fan.
I love Byrne's time on X-Men. Silvestri, like I said, Romita Jr. had a hell of a run. Sure. So that would be my top 4, but yeah, depending on what day of the week it is, I guess it could change who I like the best. But I don't know. You can't go wrong with Paul Smith though. On X-Men, good stuff.
No.
All right, so what do you give this 1 out of 10, Jank? Claremont was kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
This isn't the best Paul Smith.
No. Well, I guess it's still the X-Men, so I don't want to go trash it too much. So I think I'll go right down the middle and give it a 5. It's kind of middle of the run of X-Men.
Yeah, I think I was going to initially go higher than that, but I think you're right. It's just painfully average in the middle. I don't like Space Whales. I don't like Space Adventures.
I like some Space Adventures, but I don't know, just random, it's just an evil replicating space race is not the most interesting of villains. There's not a lot of drama there. It's just kind of, these things are terrible, evil insects. Like, let's squash them. It's not a very, compelling villain.
But I guess the whole embryos hatching inside them and killing them all is kind of compelling.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. But again, it's kind of like, this works better in Aliens when they're just a bunch of space truckers instead of people with superpowers and, weird flying space whales and stuff like that. Like, it's scarier when you're normal people instead of, people with superpowers.
We also have to put this story in the context of the time as well. Like you said, 1982, we had aliens, but I guess the whole embryos hatching inside bodies was not as done to death as it is in 2023.
Yeah.
We've seen it so many more times since then that we've probably become numb to it. But at the time, it was probably, this is cutting edge stuff. So
it's only been ripped off once.
Yeah, it's the initial rip off. So I think 5 out of 10. There's definitely better X-Men. Like I said, the 150s and 160s a little weird.
Got a little experimental there. Yeah, they didn't all quite work, but I don't know. We've definitely done worse, so I'm not going to trash it too hard. Nice to see Wolverine being Wolverine.
Yeah. How many times over the years has he thought about murdering the X-Men to save them? To put them out of their misery? That seems to be a thing that happens a lot. I'll put them out of their misery to murder them. Because, in the movies, you see him doing it to Famke Janssen, putting her out of her misery.
Yep.
Yep.
Did it to Mariko in the comics, I remember.
Oh.
He got poisoned, and then he had to kill her. I don't know. If you ever get, implanted with an alien, Mike Dell, I promise I will take you out.
I don't know. I kind of like being an alien. I don't
No,
know.
no. Even if you get a splinter, I'm just going to be like, nope, time to put him down. He had a good run.
All right. Use your best judgment.
Expected. Yeah.
I'll trust you. All right, Jack. So next week, what do you got for us?
All right. So, I thought about picking an aliens comic, because we talked so much about the xenomorphs in this episode here. But instead I was like, that might be a little too much to do that right after the Brood. So
yes.
I figured I would go with, the old enemy there of the xenomorphs. We're going to do Predator number 1 from 1989.
Oh, I don't like this at all. Predator. This seems to be cutting corners here. 89 and Predator. All right.
Yep. It counts. Still in 89. So we're cutting it
Who's the publisher of this?
This was a Dark Horse comic.
Oh, that's nice. We've never done Dark Horse on this show. So I've been meaning to pick a Dark Horse.
Mark Verheiden and pencils by Chris Warner.
Oh,
Two
very
luminaries. Yeah,
I've never heard of them. Never heard of them.
Yeah, this seems to be a sequel to the movie, but at least this issue seems a lot more like Predator 2, which didn't come out for another year after this, so I'm curious to see what similarities there are between this and Predator 2, and if there was any influence there or not. But
all right, yeah, there we go. Predator issue 1, 1989. That's something I was not expecting. I'll say that.
Yeah. Threw you a curveball there.
So, all right. That's next week, and until then, don't get any jank on you.